I'm hoping you can see it. There is a hole in a bracket there, and above that bracket is a switch. Now, on this poor old car, the brake light, fuse, and relays are gone. I can't get the right kind of shop light up in here so that you can see it any better. And since I'm doing all of this with my cell phone, I don't know what that's going to look like either. So what happens to a bunch of these old Hondas is there's a plastic button just like that goes in that hole. I buy them by the pack from the dealership, and they snap into that hole, and that lets your switch go into a on-off position. There's a bunch of old Hondas just like this in the wrecking yard because that button has rotted and fell out in the floorboard. They turn yellow, and the brake lights stay on all the time, run the battery down. So people don't understand why the car doesn't start. Well, it's because the brake lights are on all the time and no one notices it. So they replace the starter, they replace the alternator, they replace the batteries, then they end up junking the car out. This also happens to a clutch cabled vehicle when it comes to starting and stopping. This button here is what rots out, and you can't push in the clutch and the car start. So what you end up having to do is what I did on this old car. That's the master relay. And none of this is ever a good idea. But you find that starting relay, which is mounted way up here in the dash. There's no dash in this old car. As you can see, it's that far up into the dash, you can't hardly get to it. That's where it plugs in, and you jump it. Well, the danger with that is after you perform that modification, then you can hit the starter while the car is in gear, and the car will spin over and start up in gear. Very, very dangerous. Of course, at the same time, you know, you can put the car in gear and hit the starter button, and it'll pull itself around to somewhere. Again, I'm doing all this on my cell phone. And I'm trying to make a YouTube video, so we'll see how that turns out. So I'm using an old school shop light. The old yellow kind that gets hot and burns you for lighting on this. I'm going to put the motor out of this white car into this white car. I've already got the motor out of this one, and I missed a lot of. So you have an upper motor mount. There's a motor mount that goes on the side. Under there, you have that crazy round motor mount by those hoses. You can see the bolt there in the middle. It's a long, crazy motor mount. Of course, that one, the bolt is through. That's the cross member. I was thinking about taking the motor and cross member and everything out at the same time, but I think that complicates things a little bit more for me. I think my steering mechanism there is still good. You can take the motor out of the car by lifting it straight up with your cherry picker, or drop the motor on the ground and then pick the body straight up over it with your cherry picker and then slide the car back, which is what I did in this case. I'll probably just undo all the motor mounts and pick the car straight up out. Then I'll undo the steering mechanisms, which are already loose on this car. So that's A-plate bolt, strut bolt. Over on that side, as you can see, fake A-plate bolt. It's a two-piece A-plate that bolts in there. Again, I'm doing this on my camera and on my cell phone, and it doesn't exactly. My phone updated a couple of years ago, or a year ago, and they do that because they want you to buy a new phone. But that's the best picture I can get of you of that. It's a lower control arm that has another piece bolted to it that turns into a fake A-plate. Hopefully after I get a new camera and some different lighting and I'm able to move it around on my own, I can show it to you. And yes, the microphone on my phone is horrible. If I could put my Bluetooth hands-free cell phone piece in my ear and record through it, that would be great, but guess what? They won't let you do that because that's too convenient. Yeah, it's hard for me to hold it where you can see it. It just snaps into that round hole. That's the bag that it came in. I've used these in Honda Accords and Civics. According to this bag, it's a pack of 10. I keep them in the glove box of a vehicle. I'm glad I have, because I have a 2003 out in the front, and on a particular car trip, when we got where we were going, a friend said, "You know your brake lights are hung up." Well, when I looked down in the floorboard, I saw the yellow rotted mess of rubber eraser. That's just what it looked like to me on the floorboard. And I was lucky I had these in my glove box. So I had somebody stand on the brake pedal for me. It's very dangerous. You can get a finger smashed. They held the brake down, and I snapped one in. End of problem. Otherwise, I would have woke up in the morning with a dead battery in my car, and it would have continued. I would put one in this car, but since the brake lights aren't working anyway, there's no need in wasting one of those on this. In fact, I'll have to take the other ones out. It's only in there to stop the brake pedal from making noise at this point.